Hello, I'm Lynda Kinkade, sitting in for Becky Anderson. We start in Syria with news from the northern battlefields. US-backed fighters are making gains against ISIS in Manbij. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says the alliance has recaptured about 40% of the city. Meanwhile, some civilians are leaving the besieged city of Aleppo through 3 humanitarian corridors set up by Russia and Syria. Russian state media now say that 4 more corridors will be opened. There's skepticism, though, in many quarters about Russian and Syrian plans. Ian Lee is in Beirut. Ian, the United Nations believes about 300,000 people are in Aleppo, but so far we're only seeing a trickle leave.
Well, that's right, Linda, and we're seeing that on Syrian state TV. We're hearing this from Russian media as well, saying that 169 civilians have left the besieged parts of Aleppo, including 69 rebel fighters. And these fighters, according to Syrian state media, will be granted amnesty. There's a 3-month window there that fighters can lay down their weapons and surrender over to government forces. The Russians also saying that they have roughly 14 tons of humanitarian aid ready to greet the people who make it on the other side. Now, that being said, we're talking to people inside the city. Sources are telling us that they've been to these humanitarian corridors. They haven't seen anyone go through them. Also, they hadn't seen any signs or evidence that people have been using them. Those sources in Aleppo say that people would be reluctant to go over to the other side because of what has happened in the past, and that is, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, that men and women have been separated and the men have disappeared. So while we are hearing about this humanitarian corridor, there's a lot of skepticism in Aleppo.
Yeah, no doubt. Russia, of course, we're hearing may open up another 4 corridors. As you point out, the trust issues. Amnesty International saying some civilians don't trust the regime or the Russians.
That's right, and it goes back to those the people who have gone over before, and you do have those people being separated. And just talking to our sources inside Aleppo, what people are telling us is that after the years of the wars, they say they just can't trust the regime anyways. So they don't feel like that if they do go over, that they will be treated well. Now, the UN has said that they want to be the ones that operate these corridors during a ceasefire between both sides for 48 hours to get that humanitarian aid in. But so far, we haven't heard either from the Syrian regime, the Russians, or the rebels about this ceasefire.
And Ian, just paint a picture for us of the conditions that face those that remain in the city.
Oh, Linda, it is quite dire there. Talking to people, they say that when you go to a market, you're not seeing anything on the shelves. There's no fruit, no vegetables, no bread, no food products. Then doctors are complaining about lack of medicine, also lack of medical supplies. One-time use items like syringes are being sterilized and reused because they just don't have them. And during normal times before the siege began, it was difficult to get supplies in, but they could. But now it's almost impossible to get that. So these supplies are dwindling. Also, they're lacking on fuel. Ambulances are running very low. They're basically running on the last few tanks that they have to get people to the hospital. Also, a diesel fuel for generators that power the hospitals, that also is running out. So quite dire from what we're hearing from medical personnel, who also say that most people in this besieged area suffer from malnutrition. Linda.
Okay, Ian Lee, we'll have to leave it there for now. Thanks so much for that update.